College of Medicine, Professor Idris Abubakar, and our distinguished the academic and non-academic staff present, and colleagues from other institutions, and also other participants that we have that are joining us from abroad virtually, and our students here at Margaret Lawrence University. We all welcome you to this occasion. Members of the public, we all welcome you too for joining this event. I wish to also give a special appreciation to Associate Professor Ramsey Yama, the head of Department Community Medicine, Margaret Lawrence University, for his commitment and support towards this program. You are all warmly welcome, and we thank you for being part of this important academic engagement. You are welcome, and we wish you an engaging lecture, and we ask that you enjoy the rest of your day as we begin the program. Thank you.
From the Department of Community Medicine, Margaret Lawrence University, to read the citation of our first speaker for the day, Lucia.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure that I present to you Dr. Lucia Ujeri, a highly accomplished scientific officer and researcher at Benzi Foundation in Bari, Italy. Dr. Ujeri holds a master's degree in medical biotechnology with advanced graduate studies in pediatric medicine development, biostatistics for clinical research, and scientific publication. Her expertise lies in the designing, planning, and execution of collaborative research projects, particularly in the fields of pediatrics, clinical research, biobank-based research, and rare hemoglobinopathies. Her dedication to ethical, regulatory, and methodological standards has significantly contributed to the advancement of pediatric medicine and rare disease research. Dr. Ujeri's work continues to shape the landscape of medical research, demonstrating her unwavering commitment to improving clinical outcomes and driving forward scientific discovery in pediatrics healthcare. I present to you Dr. Lucia Ujeri, which is our lecturer for the first lecture. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this nice introduction, for the kind invitation, and really I would like to congratulate for this important event and the organization of this meeting. So can I just start, right? Or is there somebody else that should like to speak before? Okay, so I will just go straight and start. I will share my screen with slides. Just 1 second. Can you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot for confirming. As it has been mentioned, this lecture will deal with some general requirements for applying to European grants. In these slides, you will see my contact information. This will be just a really, really general overview. So in case you have any doubt or in case there are some aspects that you would like to go to know more in detail, feel free to contact me, to reach me by mail, and we can also set a side meeting or an offline discussion. Before starting, just this disclaimer, of course, I will provide you with slides and you can use, providing that the source is a knowledge. As I was mentioning, This presentation only contains some general high-level information. In case you would like to apply to a European call for proposal, I would really advise to refer to the guidance documents and templates of each call for specific information. I will just repeat this message throughout the presentation because it's a very, very crucial point while considering an application to refer to the official documents. So before starting, just few words about the organization, my organization. It is Fondazione per la Ricerca Farmacologica Gianni Penzi Onlus. Fedele Duccio Bonifazi is the president and he should be here today, but he is traveling. So he invited us to bring his welcome to you and our institution is a not-for-profit scientific research organization with a focus on rare disease patients and children. Our work is mainly in three areas: ethics and regulatory aspects of research management from the project proposal to the conclusion of the project, and data science and IT aspects. I will not go into all the projects that are mentioned here, but it is just to tell you that we have a quite wide activity spanning in several areas in different projects at European and international level. And again, if you want to know further, you can visit our website and our pages on social networks. So I will just start with the agenda for today. First of all, a general overview of on the European funds for research and innovation. Then we will go through the pathway of a proposal preparation. I will give you some link as useful resources, and then of course there will be enough space and time for any question concerning this topic. So concerning the first point, the current European funding system for research and innovation, it is called Horizon Europe, and is the key, I would say, the main funding program. It covers scientific, technological, economical, environmental, and societal aspects, and it supports all forms of research and innovation. So you will find there a series of areas and call for proposals spanning across several topics of research and innovation. Here in table on the right, you can see some key general information about this program. We are running towards the end of this funding system that it will close next year and will be, of course, followed by another funding program. You can see here below what is the amount of resources that have been dedicated. It's really, really huge investments. Just 1 second, okay. On this item, it is really, really very relevant point for the European Commission that is going to spend all these resources. I will just give you a few words on how the Horizon Europe system is organized in the next slide. Okay, you can see here the whole structure at a glance. I will focus on this central part of the presentation. You can see we have different specific program. This one is focused on research on defense and development, so this will not be in the scope of our presentation. And also the Euratom part, it is focused on research on nuclear energy, so this will not be the focus, while most of the contents of this presentation will deal with these three pillars. That is the main focus on research and innovation aspects. I will give you a few words about each of them, and then I will explain how the specific destinations are composed. The first pillar is the pillar 1 on excellent science, and it is composed of 3 funding schemes. The ERC scheme, that is quite interesting and relevant for universities because it funds frontier research projects conducted by individuals or teams led by a single principal investigator or a collaboration between 2 or 4 principal investigators. It is open to researchers from all institutions, so it has quite no limits in terms of geographical coverage, and it funds groundbreaking nature and ambitious research projects in 4 areas: physical science and engineering, life sciences, social sciences, and humanities. So it is a quite interesting funding scheme if you are working in a university, because it is mainly focused on research from principal investigators, so from universities. The second funding scheme is the MISCA, the Maria Sklodowska-Curie Actions, that it funds excellent research and innovation from researchers at all careers of research stages, having a focus on mobility across borders in order to learn from different institutions. So mobility is the key, and you can have staff exchanges, PhD programs or postdoctoral programs in other institutions. Concerning the topics, this is a bottom-up scheme. This means that it's open to all the topics of research and innovation. There is not a specific focus, but you have some, I would say, high-level characteristics that refers to the acquisition of new competencies and training throughout mobility. The last scheme of the excellent science pillar is referred to research infrastructures. This term is a quite specific term in the European funding scheme because it refers to facilities, resources, and services that allow researchers to conduct research at European level. So it includes research laboratories, instrumentation and equipment, technologies, data resources, computational tools, and communication networks. So it is intended to consolidate, support, and expand the current research infrastructure ecosystem at European level, including both national infrastructure and pan-European infrastructure. So it is a quite specific and dedicated funding scheme. Moving to the second pillar, it is quite interesting because it is intended to support global challenges and European industrial competitiveness. It is referred to the European policies, so it is intended to give a boost to European policies, but also to the worldwide sustainable development goals in 6 clusters. You can see here the whole list of clusters. And while I will just give an insight on the first one, that is the cluster health, that contributes to 6 expected destinations: stay healthy in a rapidly changing society, living and working in a health-promoting environment, tackling disease and reducing disease burden, ensuring access to innovative, sustainable, and high-quality healthcare, unlocking the full potential of new tools, technologies, and digital solutions for a healthy society, and maintaining an innovative and sustainable, globally competitive health industry. So for all these clusters, the work in terms of call preparation and background work before a call for proposal is published is sustained by the work of Joint Research Center. Joint Research Center is a kind of Europe-wide research unit that supports European and national policymakers with independent scientific evidence and technical support. So the scientists at the center carry out research in various fields, and they publish somehow some kind of general reports, policy statements, and research work that could guide the work of those that prepare work programs and calls for proposals. Moving to the third pillar, I will not give you so much detail, but it is mostly focused on innovative Europe, and it has a quite high focus on markets, as most of the budget is intended to support small and medium companies. And you can see here 3 different funding programs. I would say that most of the work that it is usually do at research from our institution and from our collaborators is mostly focused on the pillar 2, but we have also quite good experience with coal in the pillar 1. So most of the contents that you will see just after are mostly referred to these two pillars. Just to explain how the pathway works, you have seen here, I have presented the 3 pillars that are the component of the Horizon Europe structure. So it is a kind of funnel process going from the pillar to the specific call for proposal. You have thematic areas, the clusters or programs that I have shown before. And then you have specific work programs that are multi-annual plans defining priorities, budget, and timelines. Within the work program, you have specific destinations and topics. Destinations are intended as policy-driven objectives within a work program, while the topics are specific research and innovation actions that have a defined scope and impact. And narrowing down your closer reference is the call for proposal, that is the open invitation to submit proposal under one or more topics. So this is the whole pathway, but at the end, your focus is on the specific call for proposal. And going into more details, the work programs that are published annually, for example, in December 2025, it has been released, the work program for 2026 and 2027. They announced the specific research and innovation areas that will be funded, and following the publication of work programs, call for proposal are made available through the funding and tender portals. You can see here on the slide the link to the funding, to this portal that is the single point of entry for all the funding calls that are managed at European Commission level. And in each call, you have more precise information on the specific research and innovation issues that you as applicant are expected to address, and also all the technical aspects that you need to fulfill to participate in the call. As I was mentioning below in the slides, you have the links to the most recent Horizon Europe work programs that have been released less than 1 month ago. And here on the right, you have the link to the funding and tender portals. I would like to stress this is the unique point of entry, both for call for proposal and for proposals submissions. So while you go there, you can navigate through it, and you will get all the information on call for proposal and all the indication on how to present a project proposal. But I will give you some more details on this really work in practice. So first of all, how this calls for proposal works. A very, very relevant point I would like to stress, the prompt to start this work is the idea that you have. So a research project that you would like to run, a product that you would like to develop, a specific needs you would like to fulfill within your institution. So just start navigating the portal and all the information, having in mind what is your focus and what is your research interest. This is relevant because the calls are really, really a lot, and you have a lot of information. So the risk is to get lost in all this amount of documents and information. The question that you really should have in mind is to which extent is this a call and this area pertaining to my interest and the research I would like to run. So having this first point in mind, you can go further to understand all the next points that I'm going to explain. Before going into more detail, just this clarification. In the Horizon Europe program, you have this different approach intended of single stage calls and double stage calls. Single stage calls are calls for proposal that are open, and you need to present the full proposal that is going to be evaluated, and then a funding decision is issued. While double stage call, for double stage calls, you have 2 submissions and 2 evaluations. You have a first summary proposal. I'm referring here to an outline proposal. Usually these are 10 pages where you give general idea of the objective and the work that you would like to run. And then you have the first evaluation. If this is successful, you have an invitation to apply and develop a full proposal that is going to undergo a second and independent evaluation, after which a funding decision is issued. So it is a longer process, but at the end, you can be, of course, stopped here, or at the end, they could decide to do not fund because there are some aspects that do not convince. Besides this type of calls, there are also topics that have multiple cutoff dates. So they are continuously open with cutoff date for proposals evaluation. And you can have, for example, a call that it open in January and will close next year, and they have 3 or 4 cutoff for evaluating projects. So they will evaluate all the projects that are received at a set date. So this is just an operational consideration, but it could be useful because when you are going on the portal, this is one of the first information that you will find for calls for proposal. And as I was mentioning, the first step is the call identification and selection, and it is a very, very crucial point because the call set out type of projects, activities that can be funded. So we really advise to spend time and attention in this first step because time that you will spend here will be gained in all subsequent steps, as it is avoid, of course, wasting resources in not pertaining calls. Just an example, there are some calls for proposal that do not fund specific equipment for research. They just fund staff resources. So at the end, if you have in mind to buy a new machine for running your research and you need resources for this, you really need to find a call that include this among priorities and budget lines. Of course, this is just an example, and here in the slide you will see some suggestion on our side on how to work to identify the right call. The first point is to define thematic areas and keywords, define criteria to screen the calls, for example, that the aspects that I was mentioning before, analyze selected calls, studying the most relevant items, and then just start working only when you are sure that the call that you are reading is the right one to support your idea. And here in the table, you have a scheme of all the information that we suggest to consider while analyzing a call. I will not explain all details. You will find everything in the slide. Just an aspect I would like to mention is relevant in our experience. Please consider also the call deadline. So all the process that I will explain is quite long, time and resource consuming. So just be sure that the call deadline is not, for example, in a couple of weeks, because even if you have a brilliant idea and the call is right, you will not have enough time to put together a nice proposal. So just set an alert, because usually calls are published on a periodic basis. So most likely there will be a similar call next year, but don't rush to apply. It really takes time to do all this work. So just pay attention also to these aspects. The second aspects you would like to consider are the participation requirements for institutions. And I will give here just really general and high-level information. First of all, to check whether your organization is eligible for funding, check the call condition on the topic page. But in general, most of the funding programs require that participants are legal entities, so constituted entities, private or public body, including international organizations. And these entities should be established in one of the eligible countries. This is not referred only to European member states, because many calls are also open for eligible non-EU countries, associated countries to Horizon Europe. So you will find that the full list of countries that are eligible. So these are the two main aspects, but please consider that all programs have additional criteria which can widen or narrow the group of entities that can apply. So besides the legal entity criteria and the geographical location criteria, that might be also some other requirements on the status of the organization that can, of course, narrow down these requirements. And again, the invitation is to check to the specific core requirements and eligibility criteria. Just a technical aspect that I would like to mention for participation, this so-called peak number. So if you want to participate in a call for proposal, your organization needs to be registered in the participant register. That is the single entry point that I was mentioning before. And to be registered, you need to complete a process, after which you will get this participant identification code. It's a kind of online registration. So you need to include all the information for your organization, and then you will get this code that is a unique 9-digit number, and it identifies the organization participating in European funding programs using in online application. It is essential. Without the code, you cannot be included in the proposal, because as I'm going to explain, all the process for proposal application has to be run online. So also the partner organization list needs to be included online, and it is going to be included through this number. I would really advise to check for additional information on the big number, and if you would like to know if your organization is already registered here in the specific register, just please note that the registration process is quite straightforward. It requires few minutes, but then at the end, if your proposal is selected for funding, you are going to be validated through a procedure that is going, and you need to provide some documentation. So this is a subsequent step. At the time of application, you just need to register to get this number. But please bear in mind that in case you are selected, of course, for the first time for an application, you need to validate providing a set of specific documentation. In terms of consortium requirement, that one was referred to individual institution requirement. In terms of consortium building, you need to take into account this general requirement. Most European grants are intended to finance multi-beneficiary consortia composed of at least 3 independent participants organizations from 3 different eligible countries. So you need to take into account this. And again, the warning that I was referring before, please bear in mind that there might be some core specific requirements. So you might have for example, a maximum number of partners, or you might have additional criteria concerning the participation of non-European countries, for example. And another aspect you would like to consider while building your consortium is the recommended budget for the call. Within a consortium, you have two main roles, the coordinators and the other beneficiaries. The role of the coordinator is, of course, of managing the project, and it is responsible of submitting reports and deliverables, and it acts as intermediate for all the contacts with the European granting authorities, while the other beneficiaries have, of course, must implement their part of the projects and have the responsibility of contributing to the grant administration, of course, from the preparation phase until the reporting and the closure of the projects. All the consortium participants are jointly responsible, of course, for implementing project activities, and this means that if the project is not finished or badly implemented, all the beneficiaries will be responsible also to give back money in case this will be requested. Just some suggestion in terms of consortium building. Of course, be sure that all the organizations are eligible for fundings. Create a partnership that comply both with the eligibility criteria, core requirements, but also with the activities that you are going to propose, and then, of course, assign responsibility based on expertise and plan appropriate resource and timing to work on the proposal, and also not only scientific contacts, but start gathering all the information that you need from partners. These, of course, are really general suggestions, but are some key points where you are going to build a consortium. In terms of proposal preparation, what you need to do. The general structure of a Horizon Europe application includes two parts. Part A, the so-called application form, and part B, technical description. I will give an insight of everything. Bear in mind that all the sections are mandatory and the whole project process needs to be completed in the online portal. The first part, the application form, the so-called Part A, has to be fully completed online. It includes some general information on the project, the participants, the budget, the ethics and security sections, and some other questions. I will go into further detail for each of these sections, except for the ethics and security that will be extensively addressed in the presentation from Annalisa, that will give an excellent overview on this. The other part, the part B, a technical description, is intended as a Word document that needs to be populated and then uploaded as PDF, and you have a template with instructions to prepare this document. It is the core of your application. It includes the title, the list of participants, and the technical contents of your proposal. In general, of course, each call for proposal has its own template for the part B, but the sections are usually three: the excellence, the impact, and the quality and efficiency of the implementation. And importantly, for each section, you have some evaluation criteria. So your proposal will be evaluated for these three areas. These two are the core part of an application, but you might have other core related annexes. While going into more details on the part A, that is the part that you need to be to complete and save online, you have this general information when you have the call ID, the acronym and title of your proposal, the duration in months, the keywords. You have some fixed keywords that are set by call topics, and some free keywords that you can include to describe your projects, and then you need to provide a 2,000 character abstract that will give an overview of your proposal, and you need to take some declarations saying that all the participants, it is a kind of statement that all the participants are aware of the application and agree with the final contents. While for each of the participants, you need to provide, of course, the list of participant organization and role, the coordinator or partner. You can see here on the screen just an example, and of course the PIC code for each organization, that is the code I was mentioning before, the departments that carry out the proposed work, the link with other participants in case you have some links predefined, and the contact information. You have here just on the screen an example on this section. But for each participant, you need to outline also the researchers that are involved in the proposal. Please, some aspects that you need to take into consideration, even if you are applying from a company or from a not from a scientific society or from a patient association, researchers are not intended only in the academic as academics, but are all professionals that are engaged in the planning or running of new research activities. So it exists in all the organizations that are involved in a research project, and you need to outline the career stage for each of the researchers that you are going to include. And you have 4 categories from A, that is the top grade researcher, the full professor, the director of research, until the category D, that are the first stage researchers that are going to be involved within the proposal. Please note, this part is not intended to be evaluated, so they will not evaluate the researcher, but it's mostly intended for the accountability of the proposal to track the scientific impact. So you need to be to pay attention in including all the exact information for the team members that you are going to include in your proposal. Then, beside the specific staff units, you need also to outline the role of your organization in project activities, and you have a drop-down list, but you can, of course, include other, and really this needs to reflect what is your role in the project. And each participant should include information on these 3 items: achievements, project or activities, infrastructure or equipment. These 3 sections are somehow descriptive of the institution. For the first one, the achievements, you need to list up to 5 publications or datasets, softwares, any other goods, services, patents, achievements that your institution has developed. Of course, you need to select and you need to think to the ones that are most relevant, describing your expertise and your role in the project. While for project or activities, again, you need to list up to 5 project or activities in which you have been involved that are, of course, connected to the subject of the proposal. And the infrastructure equipment is referred to any infrastructure or technical equipment relevant to the proposed work. For example, if you have a data center or an IT hub, or you have some other resources, libraries, anything that could be relevant for the project activities. Please note that you have characters limits, 300 or 500 characters. So you need just to provide general information with identifiers whenever possible. I will just mention these other points you need to mark in the part A. Each participants need to mark, and it is referred to the gender equality plan. So according to Horizon Europe rules, public bodies, higher education establishments, and research organizations from member states and associated countries must have a gender equality plan in place by the time the grant agreement is signed at the latest. Please note that this is an eligibility criterion, and you have some minimum process-related requirements, the so-called building blocks for a job that are mentioned here. So your plan needs to be published and endorsed by a reference person in the institution. You need to dedicate specific resources for its implementation. You need to collect data for monitoring how this is going to be to progress, and you need to dedicate resources also for training on this. I will not give further details on the gender equality plan. because it's not my expertise and my focus, but I would like to invite you to attend a webinar that is going to be held in 2 weeks from now. It will be presented by Annalisa, and it will be focused on gender equality and the inclusive organizational culture. So it will include information that you need to provide in the European application, but it will go beyond. So I would really invite you to join this, and you will have connection information here in the slides. And I will just move to another relevant part of the section A that is referred to the budget information. So you need to include online your estimation for the budget of the project. Please, I will just give you some general consideration because it is not my expertise, and it really requires a dedicated session on this. So please be realistic, balanced, and aligned with the project objectives, work plan, and expected impacts. Usually, personal costs are the core of the budget and are expressed in person months. This is justified by the complexity and the responsibility of each partner store. Of course, you have other cost categories, travel, equipment, consumable, that you might be considered. Verify the compliance with cost eligibility rules and funding rates, because not all the call can be funded at 100%, and take into consideration that an item of the evaluation will be the quality of the implementation, and the quality of the implementation of the project is also referred to a fair distribution of resources among participants. So bear in mind this while planning your budget line for the project. As I was mentioning, I will not go into detail the ethics and security, because this will be the subject of the presentation from Annalisa, but just very high level insight on the part B, the technical description. You need to have general information, the title of the proposal, the list of participants, and 3 main sections. Section 1 on excellence, where you need to outline your objectives and the ambition and the methodological approach that you are going to adopt. The impact session, when you need to include information on project pathway towards impact at short, medium, and long term. The measures to maximize impact, including dissemination, exploitation, and communication. And then at the end, you need to provide a summary table of key elements, just to be sure that your projects remain focused. The last part is the quality and efficiency of the implementation, and includes the work plan and resources, the overall structure of the work plan, the timing of the different work packages and activities with a Gantt chart scheme or something similar, the graphical representation of the components, again in a chart format, and the detailed work description. Then you need to provide the details on the capacity of participants and the consortium as a whole, and you need to include supporting tables that are included in the templates, referred to the work packages, deliverable, milestone, the critical risks for implementation, the person months required, the subcontracting costs, and other costs related table. Please note that page limits apply and are quite strict. For a first stage application, in case of double stage call, this is at most 10 pages, while for full application, this really depends on the type of action and on the type of the call, and the limits might range from 30 to 70 pages, but you can have also some different page limits, depending, of course, the type of action and the funding system. So, and please consider that all the exceeding contents will be cut down. So your proposal will not be fully evaluated in case you have exceeding pages. Also, the reference list should be included in the page limits. As I was mentioning, some calls may ask to upload annexes to Part B as separate documents. The most common ones, clinical trials. For all the calls that intend to fund clinical trials, you need to provide access annexes with detailed information. It's a kind of synopsis. Financial support to third parties. Calls that are flagged as security sensitive. It is not the case for most of the calls that we usually deal with, but you might be asked to provide information on security aspects. And in case you have calls with severe ethics issues, you might be asked to provide further information on ethics. So you might be asked to upload annexes also outlining how to you intend to handle all the ethics aspects for your projects. So just very relevant, very high-level suggestion concerning the administrative setup, the development of the proposal content, the review and quality control. I'm going to, these are the last slides of my presentation for the administrative setup. Please derive all the administrative documents and the condition you need to fulfill. Failing compliance lead to proposal ineligibility, so your proposal will be not evaluated. Download documents and templates in a workspace. Again, each call has specific templates, also setting the formatting requirements. Start to collect administrative information from all the participant organizations and identify for each of them one administrative and scientific reference person in order to address the request to the right person. In terms of suggestion to develop the proposal content, read instructions in the template and address all the aspects that are mentioned. In case there is something that is not clear, look for clarification. Don't pay attention to all the aspects. If there are official guidelines, work program, position statements released, links, policy brief, please read them carefully and refer to them. Build a theoretical background in a convincing but fair tone. Reference your statements, include scientific references whenever possible. Describe fairly the methodological approach. Also present challenges, the barriers, the limits, because this is a mark of your competence in the fields. Align with evaluation criteria. We'll just give few words on evaluation criteria. Use whenever possible measurable indicators to estimate the level you would like to reach with the proposal. And also pay attention while planning activities to timelines and interdependencies. And of course, resources. Before closing your application, please plan a review and quality control, also involving external feedback, a colleague that is not involved in the proposal. Plan appropriate time for review, also in terms of typos, grammar, check for consistency, and an advised plan, of course, with appropriateness, any support from AI tools. They might be really, really useful, but they might be, of course, dangerous if you do not guide them properly. The proposal submission has to be done online. Electronic submission is mandatory, is an eligibility criteria. Study all submission requirements. Submit on time your proposal because deadlines are strict. Do not wait until the last minute because the electronic system can slow down because of intense traffic. And an important point, you may submit multiple times before the deadline. So as soon as you submit a more recent version, this is going to substitute the previous one. This means that you can plan the submission of a draft proposal 3 days before the deadlines, and you have time to refine your proposal. The standard evaluation process, it is quite long. I will not explain all the phases because, again, it might change, but it usually lasts 5 months. It is composed of individual evaluation and consensus evaluation. Then there is a panel review that is going to review the consensus evaluation. And then when it is final, you will receive your results. As I was mentioning before, the 3 items of your proposal are going to be evaluated, the excellence, the impact, and the quality and efficiency of the implementation. And you have here the criteria for the research and innovation actions in the Horizon Europe project. Each section is going to evaluate with a score that is running from 1 to 5. So you can have also intermediate vote, 4.5. So at the end, the maximum is 15. So here you have further resources in case you would like to develop a proposal. Please note that each link is open to new pages and new resources. So these are the wider pages, and this refers to all the aspects that I have presented before. And before closing, I would like to give you other interesting resources that might be useful also for your work and your professional advancements beside calls for proposal. There is this initiative of the European Commission that is called Euraccess Africa. I don't know if you are aware of, but it provides free access to information about research in Europe, opportunities for research funding, international collaboration, and transnational mobility. And it is, of course, focused on opportunities for researchers and staff resources from African countries. So you can follow the link and register. The membership is free and you have no obligation. You can subscribe whenever you want. Another relevant opportunity I would like to highlight the MSCA Actions Fund doctoral, postdoctoral training and staff exchanges. Some of you might know because this was the funding line of the ERISE project. But please note that for postdoctoral and doctoral proposal, you can apply for PhD and postdoctoral vacancies funded within these programs, and the lists are publicly available at this link. They are updated on daily basis, so you might wish to have a look there in case you can be interested to a PhD or postdoc position. So just to conclude with these key points, please note that Horizon Europe calls are highly competitive. The estimates of success rate are quite low. 1 in 6 is expected to be funded. And in this scenario, strong alignment with the call text is essential. The core evaluation criteria are the excellence, the impact, and implementation. And please note that each one has the same weight. So 5 points for the excellence, 5 for the impact, and 5 for the implementation. Most calls require a transnational consortium with typically 3 different entities from eligible countries. Project proposal must address specific call objectives, not general research interests. So your proposal must be focused and aligned with the call objectives and expectation. The budget must be credible, justified, and cost-effective. And in this sense, strong project management and risk mitigation measures are expected. Also, ethics, data protection, compliance, and open science requirements are mandatory. All the submissions should go through the funding and tender portals, respecting the templates and the page limits that are recommended there. Again, reading and interpreting the call text is more important than scientific novelty alone, to be sure that your proposal is aligned with the call requirement. And also a well-balanced consortium, including academia, industry, and users, policymakers, significantly improve success chances. And to run all this complex process, early preparation and effective proposal coordination might increase success rates. With this, I would like to conclude. Thanks for your attention. Sorry if I might be a few minutes out of the time, and I would like to Thanks again, the organizing team, for the opportunity and the invitation. I would like to thank my whole team that allow me to be introduced to this complex world of research funding. And again, last but not least, I would like to thank you for your attention and the time. Thanks again.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Lucia Ugri, for this very excellent and clear and insightful presentation. The presentation has given us sufficient guidance to be able to muster the courage to participate in EU research grant proposals. And we are looking forward to collaborating with you and other institutions around the world to actually put into practice what we have learned today. Thank you so very much. Without further ado, I would like to call on the second. Okay, I was told the VC is here, so we can pause here and request that we get the key and address from our Vice Chancellor, Professor Ernest Zegi, if he can be unmuted.
Maybe Annalisa, you can go next and then we can, okay.
Yes, do you think that I can start? Maybe yes. I'm going to share my screen.
We can proceed with this second lecture.
Can you see it?
Yes, so I invite Mrs. Blessing Obedembe to read the citation of our second lecturer, Mrs. Annalisa Landi. Over to you, Mrs. Blessing Obedembe.
Good morning, everyone. I will be reading the recitation of Annalisa Landi. Annalisa Landi is a researcher at the Fondazione per la Ricerca Farmacologica Gianni Benzenolus in Bari, Italy. She serves as an ethic advisor for the RANSIL project and is a member of the Sterling Group of the European Network of Centers for Pharmacoepidemiology and Pharmacovigilance, ENSIP. Landi holds a Doctor of Pharmacy degree and a second-level postgraduate master's in Regulatory Sciences, GBenzi, from the University of Pavia. The internship training at London University Medical Center in the FAIR team. Her work focuses on scientific, ethical, regulatory activities, particularly related to clinical studies, data protection and confidentiality, plan and management of patient registries, medicine databases management, health data and accessibility issues, gender equality and inclusiveness. She has collaborated on several national and international projects addressing ethics in biomedical research. With this, I present to you Annalisa Landi. You're welcome, Mom.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction and the invitation to join this workshop today. So, and also thank you to my colleague Lucia, who kindly introduced me as well. So, today I'm going to share with you the ethics requirements in the European research grant proposals. So, this is a disclaimer from me. The agenda for my lecture consists of three main parts: the ethics obligations in Horizon Europe, the ethics appraisal process, and the ethics self-assessment, with the final part including useful resources for you. So, the ethics, by definition, is a branch of philosophy which studies human conduct and the basic criteria by which behaviors and choices are evaluated. So, in Europe and for the European Union funded projects, the ethics is a prerequisite for excellence. So, both the integrity and the ethics are foundational components and prerequisite for achieving the excellence across research and innovation activities. It is important that the ethics also serve to empower researchers to act responsibly for society, but also to build trust, societal trust in the research. So in this slide, you can find the relevant ethics framework for the European Union funded projects. And the main ethics obligations instead are defined in the regulation, European Union regulations, regulation 2021-695, mainly in the article 18 and 19, but also in the Horizon Europe Model Grant Agreement and in the European Code of Conduct for Research Integrity. So these are the main documents, including the ethics obligation under Horizon Europe framework. So there are, first of all, activities, fields of research that are not eligible for funding under the Horizon Europe, and these are included in this slide. First of all, the research activities aimed at human cloning for reproductive purposes, but also research activities intended to modify the genetic makeup of human beings that could make such changes heritable, and research that leads to the destruction of human embryons, but also research that aims to create human embryos solely for the purpose of research. The action under the Horizon Europe programs must strictly adhere to the ethical principle and all the relevant union, national and international applicable legislation, including, first of all, the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights, but also the European Convention of Human Rights. In this slide, you can find the right that must be respected. So the right to privacy, the principle of proportionality, the right to protection of personal data, but also the right to non-discrimination, the right to the physical and mental integrity of the person, but also the right to the protection of the environment, and so on. So the legal entities participating in European Union action shall, first of all, complete the ethics self-assessment. So by identifying the potential ethical issues that can arise during the project life cycle, ensure the compliance with the legal and ethical standards, and propose and describe the mitigation measures that will be implemented. For sure, their research integrity must be ensured, and the confirmation of the adherence to the European Code of Conduct for Research must be provided. So you need to inform that no activities excluded from funding will be conducted. We have also something related to the activities conducted outside Europe. In this case, you need to ensure that these activities are allowed in at least one European Union member state. Otherwise, this will not be funded. And there are special obligations or requirements for human embryonic stem cells. So in this case, you need to provide details on the national authorizations, but also the control measures that you will apply, and the ethics approval must be obtained before the activities begin. What is included in the the model grant agreement of Horizon Europe is that the action must be carried out in line with the highest ethical standards. So you need to guarantee that you will apply the highest ethical standards and also the compliance with the applicable European Union, international and national law. So it is important that the ethics activities that are sensitive obtain the approval before starting, that you ensure the research integrity, and the non-compliance may trigger monitoring, audits, or financial consequences. I have also included a few slides on the research integrity and ethical compliance, but I can skip them since my presentation is so long. So what is important to know is that in this document you can find something related to the institutional framework, to the requirements for research performing organization, and the research integrity promotion plan. So you can see this information in my slide after my presentation. What is important is to highlight that the misconducts may create confusion with respect to fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism, and this can involve, for example, missing the appropriate citation and references in the text, or using the same text in different proposals or ongoing projects, or missing the indication about the provenance of the text used in the proposal. So any proposal which does not fulfill the ethical requirement or the conditions set out in this regulation shall be rejected or terminated once the ethical unacceptability has been established. So the proposal may be also rejected after the ethics review. What is asked to the applicant? The applicant is responsible for identifying the potential ethical issues, handling the ethical aspects of the proposal, detailing how they plan to address these ethical issues at the proposal stage, and assuring the respect of the EU values, but also, as I said to you before, also the compliance with the applicable law and the highest ethical standards. What is important to highlight is that the responsibility for the ethics lies with individuals carrying out the research, but the formal accountability lies in the host institution. So this is something that must be taken in mind. The three key phases of the ethics obligations are included in the ethics appraisal, in the ethics review, and ethics checks, reviews, and audits. The ethics obligations in Horizon Europe cover the full project life cycle. So the ethics appraisal procedure concern all the activities funded in Horizon Europe, and includes the ethics review procedure conducted before the start of the project, but also what is done after the implementation or during the implementation of the project in terms of ethics checks, reviews, and audits. So just to provide you a visual a visualization of what is the process of the ethics appraisal, we can start with the submission phase. In the submission phase, as already mentioned by Lucia, you need to complete the online part on the European Union Funding and Tender portal, and there is a specific section dedicated to the ethics and security, that is the section 4. So you need to complete the ethics issue table that you can see in this slide. If you answer yes to one or more of the question, you need to indicate the page number number where the topic is covered in the part B. And you need also to complete the ethics self-assessment section that I will explain you later on. In some section, an affirmative answer may open up additional questions. This is instead the ethics self-assessment section that you can find after the ethics issue table. In this section, the applicants must describe the ethical dimension of the project consisting of the objectives, the methodology, and the impact, but also the compliance with how you will ensure the compliance with the ethical principles and legislation. You can also include an annex, as already stated by my colleague Lucia, and you can include also the documents that you have already on file, for example, authorizations, ethics approval, and so on, or you can include information that you will receive these documents within the dedicated timeline. So now we can move to the evaluation phase. After you have submitted your project, there is an evaluation phase that may consist of three phases, sub-phases: the pre-screening, the screening, and the assessment. So it is important to know that in parallel with the scientific evaluation of the proposal, there is also the ethics and social evaluation of the proposal. So we can start from the pre-screening one. The pre-screening phase is optional, so it is not a phase that is always carried out. And in this case, you have at least 2 ethics evaluators that evaluate your proposal. And they use the simplified version of the ethics issue table to carry out this evaluation. So in case of no ethics issue, you will receive directly the ethics clearance. In case of ethics issues, your proposal proceeds to the next phase, the screening one. So the screening is a phase that instead can be carried out on all the proposals if the pre-screening phase is not present, or on flagged proposal coming from the pre-screening phase. The aim of this phase instead is to identify proposals that raise serious or complex ethics issues. This phase is carried out by at least 2 ethics evaluators. And you can find 3 possible outcomes. If they found no ethics issues, you receive the ethics clearance. If they found ethics issue, but they are not serious or complex, you can receive the conditional ethics clearance. So, for example, they can ask you to appoint an ethics advisor for your project. If they found instead serious or complex ethics issues, your proposal proceeds to the next phase, that is the ethics assessment. There is also a guideline on serious and complex ethics issues that you can find, where you can find how they are classified into these 3 categories, but you can also look at this after my presentation. So we are now in the assessment phase. In the assessment phase, were evaluated all the proposals flagged after the screening phase, but also all the proposals that involve human embryons and human embryonic stem cells, because they are very relevant ethics issues. So the aim of this phase is to identify additional measures, for example, ethics requirements that must be implemented or during the grant preparation or during the grant implementation. And it is carried out by at least 5 ethics evaluators. The possible outcomes of this phase are 4. So you can receive the ethics clearance. So the ethics section that you completed can be transferred directly to part B in the description of action, and you can finalize the grant agreement. If you receive the conditional ethics clearance, you are subject to ethics requirements. They can ask also you to provide them with more information, and in this case there is a second assessment that will be performed, and in this case the grant agreement signature is postponed. Or you can also have no ethics clearance, so the project is rejected. This assessment phase results in an ethics assessment report that is provided to the applicant. In the ethics assessment report, you can find the ethics requirements, ethics recommendation, the ethics opinion, and information about the ethics check. I would like only to provide you with more details related to the conditional ethics clearance. In case you receive the conditional ethics clearance, you can be subject to ethics requirements due before the grant signature, and in this case, you need to provide additional information or supporting documents before the grant agreement signature. Otherwise, these ethics requirements are due after the project starts and included in the grant agreement in the form of ethics deliverables that you need to submit. The potential risks if the ethics is neglected are included in this slide. So the proposal can be rejected if the ethics section is weak or incomplete. This can also lead to additional contractual obligations in terms of ethics deliverables, but also delays in the signature of the grant agreement. You can also be subject to reviews or audits during the project life cycle, and also to the loss of trust among participants or affected communities. So the ethics requirements may also include the appointment of an ethics advisor or ethics advisory board. We have a specific guideline released by the European Commission on this that you can consult. What it is important to know is that the ethics advisor must be external to the project, totally independent and free from any conflict of interest. The rule of the ethics advisor is that he or she needs to advise the beneficiary on how to deal with the ethics issues of the project, and also prepare a submit report to the commission or the funding body. And you need to provide some information about the person that you have appointed. You can find everything in the guideline that has been released. So for the submission of the proposal, the regulation established that you have a maximum period of 5 months to inform all applicants of the outcome of the evaluation, and a maximum period of 8 months instead to sign all grant agreements. But this can be delayed in case your proposal is subject to an ethics assessment, or you need to have to provide additional information, and so a second assessment is carried out. So now we move to the implementation phase. Once you sign the grant agreement, you can be subject also to the monitoring phase, but it is performed only on sensitive projects identified by the experts, with the aim to assist the beneficiary during the project life cycle to deal with the ethics issues and also to take preventive and or corrective measures. This kind of monitoring can be performed in 3 different ways in terms of checks that are internal by the project officer or ethics officer, or elaborate in a form of elaborate review. So in this case, you have up to 5 external ethics experts, but also you can be subject to audits. In this case, this happens usually in case of substantial breach of ethical principles, and it is carried out by the Commission. This monitoring phase can result in an amendment of the grant agreement, but also in the reduction of the grant, in its termination, or other appropriate measures. So it is important that you ensure the compliance with the ethical principles and with the applicable regulation during the whole conduct of your project. So you can find in this slide the summary with also the information that there is the help desk that can also support you in the ethics queries. So this is just an information for you. So now to move to the last part of my presentation, we have do focus on the ethics self-assessment. So as I was explaining to you before, you need to provide information on the potential ethical issues that will come in your project, but also you need to provide information about how you will deal with these ethical issues. You need to include also the timeline for obtaining necessary approvals if not obtained yet. And it is important that in this case, you can also be asked to appoint an ethics advisor or an ethics advisory board. So there is a specific guideline also with information on how to address or how to complete the ethics self-assessment table and the ethics issue table, and you can find the link in my slide, but I will also provide you with more information now. So the ethics issue table consists of different sections related to the main ethics issues that can arise during a project. So you can find all of them in this slide, but we will go into the details just right now. And to start with the first ethical issues that can be the first ethical aspects that can happen during your project proposal is related to the human embryonic stem cells and the human embryons. So we need to highlight that it is a highly sensitive topic due to the moral and ethical implications surrounding the origin and potentiality of these cells, and so it is important to respect human dignity, and the research is justified and legally compliant. So you can find in this section questions related to this topic. As I was already as we already discussed before, the research on human embryonic stem cell and human embryons may be financed only if it is allowed at least in one European member state, and no activities that is prohibited in a member state can be carried out in this. So it is important to provide a good rationale about the scientific proposal and the laws, the applicable laws of the member states when you are conducting research on human embryonic stem cells and human embryons. So you have to do different kind of action. In this case, first of all, you need to obtain the right approval from the relevant national or local ethics committee, but you can see in the guideline and the European Commission guideline all the things that you must do in this case. The guideline also include example of information that must be provided when you complete the ethics self-assessment section, and also example of documents to be provided. So in this case, for example, in the case of human embryonic stem cells and human embryos, you need to provide, for example, information related to the origin and the line of cell lines, or the details of recruitment, inclusion, exclusion criteria, informed consent procedure, and with reference to the documents, the copies of approvals and informed consent forms and information sheet. The second section of the ethics issue table relates to the humans, so the involvement of humans. So it is relevant for me to highlight that you need to tick the boxes related to the humans when you involve the humans in general. Also, when you are collecting or using biological samples coming from humans. So when you use personal data, when you use when you would like to conduct interviews, surveys, or you are observed humans. So you need to complete this section not only if you are performing a clinical study or a clinical trial, but also if you are working on data and samples deriving from humans. So you can see in this slide the screenshot of the ethics issue tables related to the human section that is divided in 3 main parts, and the last one is dedicated to the clinical trials. So it is important that human participants must be protected during the research activity. So you need to protect their dignity, their rights, and the well-being, and also you need to take particular attention for vulnerable population, including children and minors in general. One of the main safeguards that is asked is the informed consent, but also you need to guarantee the privacy and minimizing any potential harm. Also, in the case of the humans, you need to you need to follow what is included in the guideline related on what you must do. For example, you need to obtain the necessary approval, to obtain the free and full informed consent, and so on. And there are also information related to the specific cases, for example, activities involving children, or activities entailing more than minimal risks, and so on. For medical studies, there are also additional requirements that must be met, and additional laws that must be respected. I have included the few slides on the informed consent, but maybe we are a little bit late, so I can skip them, and also inform you in general that informed consent must be obtained by the subject, but also by the parents, legally authorized representatives in case of minors. You have to take particular attention if there are people, illiterate people, and in this case there should be an independent witness that guarantee for the informed consent during the informed consent process. And there are also the information. There is also the information that must be included in the information sheet. So as I would like to highlight, and I like to highlight always, is that the informed consent is a dynamic process. You need to also refresh the information and refresh the consent once you have new information about the study, and also to be sure that the comprehension, to ensure that the subject well understood the information that you provided. So you must ensure the comprehension of the information. So these are the main feature of the informed consent, and the particular information related to the use, to the involvement of minors. In this case, you need to adapt the information you are going to provide. You need to use visual strategies, and it is strongly encouraged, and so on. So also in this case, you have example of information to be provided. For example, details on the recruitment, inclusion, exclusion criteria, details on the type of samples to be collected, procedure for collection of biological samples, and so on. And also information related to the documents that are mainly the copies of the ethics approval and the informed consent and information sheet. So it is important that for clinical trials, there are additional information and documents that must be provided. Now to move to the third ethics aspects is related to the human cells or tissues other than the human embryos and fetus. So you need to complete this section in case you will handle human tissues or cells, and you need to indicate the origin of these cells, if they are available commercially, or if they have been obtained in another project, or will be obtained in this project, or if they are obtained from a biobank. It is important that you need then to provide additional information on the authorization that you received for using this kind of cell in the ethics, in the self-assessment section. So also in this case, you have something that you need to do. For example, you need to keep track of the origin of the cells and obtain the necessary authorization for working on this cell or with this cell and tissue, and obtain the free and fully consent of the donors. There are also specific cases, for example, cells and tissues coming from clinical practice, information related to the secondary use for further research, biobanking, genetic testing. But all of this information is included in the guideline that I shared. So the example of information that you need to provide in case you are working with cells or tissues are details of the origin, details of the informed consent procedure, the country where the material is stored, details of the legislation under which material is stored, and so on. You have instead to provide the copies of the relevant ethics approval, informed consent, and information sheets, but also copies of import and export licenses. Now we need to move to the personal data section. We have a section dedicated to the processing of personal or sensitive data. So in case you are working with the personal data coming from humans, you need to comply with the European General Data Protection Regulation, and for sure the applicable data protection regulation of your country. It is essential that the data is handled securely and that you ensure the privacy and subjects' rights. So just to provide you with some relevant definition coming from the GDPR, the European Union GDPR, about what is meant with the personal data. So personal data is any information relating to an identified or identifiable natural person. So something that can be directly or indirectly identified. So such a name, a number, a location, data, and so on. So there is also definition of the special categories of data. In the special categories of data, we have also data concerning health. and the definition of data processing. According to the GDPR, the data processing consists of any operation that is performed on personal data. So when you talk about processing, you include all the actions that can be done with data. For example, the collection, the storage, the recording, the disclosure, the alteration, the erasure, and so on. Another relevant definition that I would like to share with you is the definition of pseudonymization and anonymization. According to the GDPR, you can consider pseudonymized the data for which the direct identifiers have been removed, but you can keep the key securely and separately. But in case you remove the key at all, and data cannot be linked back to this individual, data can be considered anonymized, and so they are full of scope. They are outside the scope of the GDPR. So in this slide, you can find also good practices that are included in the guideline. For example, they suggest to use instead of raw data, pseudonymized or anonymized data, to involve a data protection officer, a person that is responsible for ensuring the compliance with the GDPR and the other applicable laws, and to also think about that any data breach can bring to misuse of findings. So also in this case, we have something to do. For example, implement appropriate safeguards, ask the informed consent of the person, and so on. There are also specific cases included in the guideline, for example, the secondary use of data, the recording of information, sensitive data, and so on. You can find in this slide also a relevant source that is a decision tool made by the European Commission that can help you identify if your research involved the processing of personal data or not. So also in this case, you can find the example of information to be provided, for example, the details of the personal data, the legal basis for the processing, details on the procedure for data collection, storage, protection, retention, and so on. And also documents, for example, the informed consent, but also the data management plan and the data protection impact assessment if relevant. We have another section instead that is related to the animals, research involving animals that can raise ethical concerns. It is important to ensure the welfare of the animal. So in Europe, we have the guideline called 3 R's principles, in which it is kindly recommended to replace animals by alternative methods, to reduce the number of animals used, and to improve the breeding, accommodation, and care of animals, and the methods to minimize the pain and the suffering and distress of the animals. So what you must do is to obtain the necessary authorizations or specific authorizations, and to look at the specific rules of each member state, because there may have stricter rules. There are also, in this case, additional information related to specific cases. In this, with reference to the use of animals, you need to provide, for example, the details on the number of animals that are used, the nature of the experiments, the details on the procedure that you will use, and so on. But also the copies of the approvals, and another important information is that you need to provide also the copies of the training certificates of the staff involved in the animal experiments. Now to move to the involvement of non-European countries, it is important to highlight that it is applicable if the activities are conducted partially or wholly in a non-European country, but also if there are participants coming from a non-European country, or if there is material imported from or exported to a non-European country. In this case, you can also need to specify the countries. Also in this case, there are specific thing to do. For example, you also need to perform a risk assessment when sending project teams abroad, and also take appropriate safety measures. It is important that the activities carried out in non-EU country must comply both with the law of that country, but also with the European Union law. You can find in this slide also the example of information to be provided and the documents. Among these, details on the activities, details on the material that you will share, the copies of the approvals, the import and export licenses, the material transfer agreement, and so on. To move to the final two sections, this one is related to the environment, health and safety, and you need to complete this section if your activities may affect the environment of the health and safety of the persons involved. This can be done if due to the experimental design of the project or the undesirable side effect of the technologies used. In this case, you need to obtain the necessary authorizations, and there are also specific cases described in the guideline. The information to be provided is the risk-benefit analysis, the details of the measures that you will implement, but also specific authorizations and other documents. The last section is dedicated, and the new section is now dedicated to the artificial intelligence. So we have the research involving the development, deployment, and use of artificial intelligence-based systems or technique. It is important to ensure that you complete this section also if the project does not develop itself an AI system, but also if you are aiming to use an artificial intelligence system. The requirements for the trustworthy AI are included in this slide and are the human agency and oversights, the technical robustness and safety, privacy and data governance, transparency, diversity, non-discrimination and fairness, societal and environmental well-being, and accountability. What it is important is that the people must be made aware about the fact that they are interacting with an AI system. So you need to inform them also about its abilities and limitations, but also the risks and benefits. You need to implement a mechanism for human oversights and for ensuring the transparency and auditability of the system. And you need to minimize, try to avoid bias in input data and algorithmic design. And you need to also ensure the data minimization principle. What you need to do if you would like to develop or use AI system for your project, you need to address the potential impact of the individual, society and environment, and also you need to develop AI system that enable human oversight, traceability and auditability. There are also unethical applications that are included in the guideline, and what it is important is that the ethics risk assessment and risk mitigation measures must cover the development, deployment, and post-deployment phases. You can find in this slide the example of information to be provided and example of documents among which, for example, the information sheet or the ethics approval, the detailed risk assessment, and so on. There is the final section related to the other ethics issues that are not covered in the previous one, so you can complete this section if you identify other ethical issues that are not covered in the previous sections. You need to complete also this section. So there is also cross-cutting issues that can be related to the potential misuse of results. So it is related to research involving or generating material, method, or technologies that can be misused, and there are included in the guideline various ways to mitigate the risk, and you can find in this slide also the activities most vulnerable to misuse. So to conclude, some take-home messages for you. For sure, you need to plan early. So to follow the ethics by design approach, involve ethics experts in the process, keep the documentation clear and organized in case of audits, in case of ethics check and review. Use a risk-based approach, so you can also consider to appoint an ethics advisor or establish an ethics board for complex projects. Also, if it is not a requirement received from the European Commission, and you need to comply with the relevant laws and follow the applicable standards and guidelines. So it is important to know that the ethics is not an obstacle, but should be considered as a value that strengthens the research quality. And if you manage to have a strong self-assessment, you can have a good management of risks, and also supports a smooth evaluation process that can improve the proposal quality. So it is important also to highlight that not all ethical issues can be predicted at the start. So project may evolve, and additional ethics issues may arise during the project life cycle. So it is important to have ethics experts on board in order to help you and support you during the project life cycle. Another point that I would like to share with you is that the European Union and the European Commission in general provide tools and guidance, so feel free to consult them and integrate the ethics from the start of your research design. So I have included in my slides also the reference documents, and further reading, you can find all of them in my slide. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would like also to acknowledge my colleague Sabina, who helped me with the slides. So I don't know if now it is time for question. Feel free to do so. I'm going to interrupt the sharing on my slide.
Oh, thank you so much, Annalisa. That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Annalisa Landy, for this excellent detailed presentation on ethical requirements for EU research grantmanship. Before we go to the questions and answers, I will like to take us back a little by inviting the Vice Chancellor, Margaret Lawrence University, that we called earlier, to give us his brief address before we go to the question and answer session. My Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Enes Izigbibi.
He's supposed to connect his. They will hear him.
Vice Chancellor, sir.
You can hear. He's hearing.
The Deputy Vice Chancellor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
The floor is open for the Vice Chancellor for his address before we go to the question and answers.
Can somebody call them? You can hear you. Okay, but he said the floor is open.
The Bursar, the Provost, the College of Medicine, the Deans, and Directors, heads of departments, professors, staff, students, my lords, spiritual and temporal, ladies and gentlemen, as chief host for technical glitches, I was unable to give my welcome address earlier. Let me state that the purpose of this lecture, it is to commemorate Founders Day, which also happens to be the birthday of our dear founder. This morning, as part of the activities rollout for this great day, was a special prayer service this morning for the founder and his family and his businesses. So this is the second event of the things that we have planned for him today. Again, I welcome you to Margaret Lawrence University. I'm talking to you from the main campus of Galilee, the city of the Lord, in the great state of Delta, the oil-rich Delta state in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Why this lecture? It is befitting to have this academic exercise because as a university, fully commissioned, fully approved by the National University Commission under the distinguished Executive Secretary, Professor Ribani, we are charged to do three things. First, teaching. Teaching. The second responsibility is to do research. That is the second responsibility. And the third, of course, is public service. Service to the department, service to your faculty, service to your college, service to the university, the state, the country, and the world at large. That is what. So this is contingent. This is important. It's an integral part of those three things that I have said. We have heard from two distinguished presenters. Thank you for your presentations. Under the topic of lecture theme, general requirement for the European Union research grant, and also the ethical requirements of the EU research grants. So we have looked at that. Now, after this presentation, I am going to ask, because we have under the Senate, we have research committee. That research committee needs to be inaugurated, needs to be composed right away and inaugurated. And I'm giving directive that Margaret Lawrence University should register for the European Union grants. The first speaker said that you can do that online. We are going to do that. I'm also glad that the research success rate, if I heard correctly from the first speaker, he said the success rate is 1 in 6 applications. 1 in 6 applications. So that suggests to me about 15%. So 15%, if 100 people submit, 15 of them will be funded. I think that's a very good mistake. When you submit, you will put on completing grant and response. We don't have a choice because it's part of what we're supposed to do. If you remember, this time last year, when we were celebrating last year for Founders Day, the founder also made a pledge where he placed a lot of money for research. So he's so much going for research. So this sounds like music to my ear. As I close, let me ask 2 simple questions. Guys, does the EU grant, does it provide fund for release time for the people who are doing the research? I know many grants in the US, they give you release time. The essence of the release time is to relieve you from academic responsibility to be able to carry out research. The second question will be, yes, does the EU grant also make provision for overhead for the institution? So when the presenters get back, answer some questions. I would like for that to be part of all the answer. Again, I welcome each and every one of you. We also have our clergies from the Catholic Church, St. Barnabas Church in the River. Joining us, you guys are welcome to celebrate. Anglican, well, I'm sorry, sir. Anglican Church, and you are welcome to identify with us in this special day. Students of the high school, of the Lawrence University High School, thank you for your participation. The staff and students of the Lawrence University, I thank you also for your participation. Thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, for your address. The Vice Chancellor has set the stage for question and answers. He has already put some questions on the table. I would like to ask our resource persons to please respond to the questions before we start taking more questions from the audience. You might also write your questions in the chat so we can read them out directly to our resource persons. Over to you, Dr. Annalisa Landy and Dr. Lucia Ruggieri, if you had the questions from the Vice Chancellor.
Yeah, indeed, it was a little bit difficult to hear specifically the contents of the questions. So if we wish to write in the chat, because we were listening, but there were some parts missing. So just to be sure to give an exact response.
Or if you if you can repeat the question, because it was really hard to follow him.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I on? Can you not hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. So he's going to repeat the questions.
Okay, thank you. My first question, I just said in the United States, many other countries in the world, there is provision for funding under the budget. Provision for funding where staff, the people doing the research, the researchers or the scientists, they can request for funding as part of their salary to be paid to them as release time. For example, at Margaret Lawrence University, the average lecturer is expected to teach 4 courses. Full-time lecturers, 4 courses, averaging 25. To give 100% is on the US. Right. So if somebody is doing research, you can ask for 20% release time to free you from your obligation. 25%, so that time can be used to do research. Okay? It happens every week. That's the first question. The second question is most grants. We have part of it, what we call institutional overhead costs. For example, if you are doing research, you are going to be using light of the institution. You are going to be using some resources of the institution. You are going to be using water, few other things for the institution. The secretary and so on. So there is usually overhead. My question is, does the EU grant make provision for that to support the university or the research institute for that? That was the second question. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. It's clear now. It's clear. Lucia and Annalisa, I hope the question's clear. Or should I paraphrase? Did you hear the questions? So the first question is about, or let me start with the second. It's talking about a certain percentage of the funding that is usually reserved for administrative purposes for the university. That is for the university. Does the EU grant accommodate such a percentage of the fund that should go to the university? The university that is implementing the research. Then the second one pertains to individual researchers if they have some entitlements personal to them within the arrangement of the funding.
So, first of all, I'm not the one following the budget breakdown for proposal, but I can answer to this high-level general question. Concerning the first question, the budget is composed for each participating institution and includes some general items. And usually there is a percentage that is to the institutional budget that is dedicated to administrative activities. So basically, this is the general principle. There are not specific dedicated fundings for administration of the university, but the university as partner will receive a part of the budgets for staff resources, including the administrative one. And the same is concerning the question on researchers. There is not a specific dedicated budget line for individual researcher. Of course, this is a quite general concept, but you have the staff cost estimate in the budget line where you include all the estimates for salaries of researchers. This means that you need to consider in the planning phase if you are going to include a PhD or a professor or another role. You need to consider while planning what could be your estimated costs for having these people involved in your project.
Thank you. It's understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. There was another question in the chat. If the EU grant restricts the area of research, for example, medicine, agriculture, law, and humanities, yes, but in the sense that you have specific funding lines for each of them. While I was mentioning the cluster before, and then you have some calls that are so-called bottom-up, so are open to any fields of research. You need just to fulfill some general criteria. For example, the one that intends to develop new PhD or new postdoc fellowships, they are basically bottom-up to all the fields. You just need to select your area before starting the application, and you need to prepare a convincing proposal in that specific fields. Other example of this type of bottom-up call are the ERC grants, the one that's intended to support the work of PIs, single PIs, and their research groups, but also the wider calls that are intended to improve the expertise of some institution in a group of countries. They are open to any fields of research, but you need to select one area in your proposal, and based on the area that you select, then a panel of reviewers will be created to evaluate your proposal.
Thank you, Lucia. There is a question here in the chat. If you could view the chat, I wish to find out if the EU grant accommodate research in engineering sector, for example, renewable energy research and development. From Ugochukwu.
Yes, there are, of course, this research line as well. I can tell you that, for example, the topic of climate is quite relevant in the Horizon Europe topics. You need just to find the right cluster, destinations, topics, and then call. Again, the Horizon Europe is aligned with both EU missions and priorities and the wider sustainable development goals. As climate, renewable energy is a relevant item, you will find for sure some interesting and pertaining call also in the field. It is not a field that I know directly, but I'm pretty sure that will be some relevant call. Yeah, I can see that there are some questions concerning cost eligibility rules. I would say that it really requires an in-depth and specific analysis from an expert. So it will be more an item for another lecture. And if you have any specific question on this, you can just write offline. I can just tell you that you have some cost items, as I was mentioning, staff, equipment, travels, and you need to include your estimates for each of them. And for each call, you have specific items to be included.
Yeah, thank you so much for that response. Dear audience that are raising up their hands, if you have questions, raise up your hand so we can recognize you. Or you could write your questions in the chat box.
Yes, please, I thank the two lecturers. But my question is for Lucia. My name is Dr. Dema. And please, Lucia, I want you to explain more on eligibility rules. Cost eligibility rules, to be precise. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that this really depends by calls and requires a specific I would say, in-depth analysis concerning costs. I can just tell you that in the proposal, you need to include your exact estimates to build your budget, and this should be breakdown by institution. So this means by partners and by item. This means staff or equipment or travels or any other item that is included in the specific costs. And you build your proposal for the budget that will be, of course, evaluated to evaluate its consistency with the activities and also if you have fairly distributed the resources. And call by call, item by item, this really might change. For example, I can just make an example. The staff exchange call that we applied for within ARISE did not include any specific costs for example, for equipment or for travels. So all these items could not be claimed within costs. But this is just an example, and this really needs to be analyzed call by, I would say, an expert person. So in case you have specific question on this, you can reach by mail and we can have a further look.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, are there any more questions? There was a question that was answered in the chat. If we could share the presentation slides.
Yes.
So we've responded that the record will be available on YouTube, and the link is here in the chat for our guide. So you are going to have the live presentation with the slides, including the question and answer sessions in the YouTube. I hope that answers the question. Then, in addition to that, we'll still have the slides, I hope, the permission of Lucia and Alisa. For those who can relate by reading rather than by listening. I hope this is possible. Am I speaking your minds, our resource persons? So, if that is the case, then if you need a copy of the slides, you could drop your email in the chat so we could reach out to you as well with the slides. IT, is there any other way we could share the slides? Yeah. Hmm? Okay. So drop your email for us in the chat, and I will be able to send you the slides. But alternatively, you can also watch the presentations again and again on YouTube, courtesy of Margaret Lawrence University. Thank you. So are there any more questions, or we move to the next item on the agenda? Okay.
Apologize. I need to leave because I have another meeting. I would like to thank you so much for your invitation, and you can reach me by email if you have additional comments or questions.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much. Thank you
See
so
you.
much, Annalisa. Bye.
Bye bye.
We are very grateful. Thank you. Okay, so we'll now
Bye.
the next item on our agenda is actually a special response by our chairman and the chief celebrant of the day, Chief Paul Odili, who is celebrating his birthday today. He is the pro-chancellor and founder of Margaret Lawrence University. However, he is not yet with us online, so we will pack that. As soon as he joins us, we will have that his special response. Or if we delegate somebody to do so, we'll take it from there. So while we wait, we'll take a vote of thanks from the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Samuel Asala.
Thank you very much indeed. On behalf of the Pro-Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor and other management staff of Margaret Lawrence University, okay, sorry. All right, thank you. Sorry, once again, on behalf of the Pro-Chancellor, Mr. Paulo Dili, the Vice Chancellor and other management staff of the University of Margaret Lawrence University, I want to say a very special thank you to everyone who has been in this program, particularly our invitee, Lucia, and Annalisa, who has had to leave a few minutes ago. We deeply appreciate you for spending your time to be at this program, and we thank you for the new things we have learned from you, particularly that an opportunity can be open to us to collaborate with you as individual researchers and also with other institutions in Europe who will be able to assist us in research activities, particularly applying for grants from Horizon program, Europe program. We thank you so much. We will definitely be getting in touch with you through the coordinator, Dr. Yalma, because Margaret Lawrence University is, although young, is highly interested in research activities. In fact, I may tell you that the Pro-Chancellor himself is deeply interested in having the university involved in research in different aspects of human life. In fact, his desire is to provide whatever is necessary to for us to be able to interact with our colleagues internationally. So I want to believe that this lecture is just the beginning for us. It's introducing us to research in collaboration with Europe, and we just hope that you will respond to us when we get in touch with you for guidance, as our staff may also be applying for grants. I want to thank also all members of staff who have been here. Thank you for showing your interest. And just like I said, I believe we will go back and think about all that we have listened to today and then begin to plan how we are going to benefit from it. So it will not just be a lecture given for the purpose of it. Once again, I want to thank everybody, and I pray the Lord blesses you for today and always. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Vice Chancellor, sir. My teacher and mentor. Thank you for the vote of thanks. This is indeed just the beginning of our series of lectures and interactions on EU research grantsmanship. There are other issues in the actual writing of research grants that we would still have to take in the course of time. Implementation science, systematic reviews and meta-analysis, methodologies and designs of research proposals, budgeting, and so on and so forth. So this is just the beginning. And the people that talk to us today have experience not just in writing proposals, but in winning them and also in implementing and managing them successfully. I've worked with them from January 2019 to December 2024 on an EU research grant that was successfully implemented, where over 100 Nigerian health workers were trained abroad in UK and Europe. So there is a lot to benefit from collaborative research. And I'm happy that Margaret Lawrence University is leading in this direction. Thank you very much. I want to confirm if the chairman, our chief celebrant for today, and Pro-Chancellor and founder of Margaret Lawrence University, Chief Paul Odili, is now available for his special response? Or should we go on to the closing remarks? Can we go on to the closing remarks, sir? DVC Provost, Vice Chancellor?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think the Vice Chancellor, probably if he can hear us. Hmm? Mm.
So while we wait to possibly hear from the chairman and the chief celebrant for the day, I will say that for me, this lecture has benefited me personally, even though I've been involved in EU research grant writing. It has benefited me yet again in diverse ways. And I see it as also an opportunity for our university, Margaret Lawrence University. You say? Huh? Yes. So it has really exposed me to international best practices in research funding and proposal development, especially from the EU. I'm sure that given these lectures, our practical skills to access European Union grants and other global grants is enhanced. And very importantly, it serves as an opportunity for us to collaborate with colleagues not only in Italy, but in other European countries in our research proposal writing. It has given us an opportunity to know what the next steps are. For Margaret Lawrence, for example, to register our university on the European Union portal and get our participant identification code for a possible future of participation in EU research proposal writing and other requirements like packaging our publications in such a way that we can present them as the achievements of Margaret Lawrence University. In terms of infrastructure, I think that Margaret Lawrence University has done very well already.
Huh?
And we have several structures on ground for research. And I know that
Oh, it's not making any sense, so we can close.
this will have to take off for us, especially academic staff. Okay, so I've gotten a confirmation that we cannot get any speech from the founder and pro-chancellor. So we shall proceed to the last item on our agenda, which is the closing remarks. And this will be given by Professor Abubakar Idris Suleiman, who is our able provost of the Paul Odili College of Medicine and also the host of this presentation. Mr. Provost, sir, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Eluma and Mr. Moderator. Well, the Vice Chancellor, sir, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, other principal officers of the university, members of staff, students, participants, and most especially our resource persons. Good afternoon. Now, the college, in its wisdom, felt that it needs to enrich the programs on the Founders' Day. And it felt that the most important thing to bring up to the university community is the issue of research. And on topic of research, there's nothing most important like as grantmanship. And that's what brought up this presentation today. And as the moderator identified, this is just the beginning. I want to say that the Department of Community Medicine is the one that championed this presentation. And it's not uncommon because if you are aware and you know the functions of the college, Community Medicine Department is essentially a research-based department. They are the ones that feed us with data, analyze all our work we do in the college, and translate them into research papers. So I want to give a special thank to the Department of Community Medicine for taking the bold step in organizing this presentation. And like the coordinator said, we're expecting to have more and more of this. Now, probably by next year, we hope that more programs will come up on the Founders Day so that we enrich this day because it's a very special day for us. So we feel that we should be involved in the celebration. And not only that, we are exposing, advertising ourselves all over the world, but at the same time, academics, faculties will get the requisite knowledge needed to upgrade themselves. So with this, I thank you all for participating, and I wish to see you when next we bring out such invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Professor, for the closing remark. I just saw a question in the chat for Lucia. But is she still with us?
Yes.
What is your grant cycle, or can one apply at any time of the year for the EU grants?
Okay, so in most of cases, you have set deadlines. So you have specific deadline, except for this cutoff calls, for which you have a final deadlines at the end of the year or in the year later, and you have some cutoff dates for the evaluation. But usually when they publish a call, they have a deadline. So you need to submit your application before the deadline.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So with this, we have come to the end of the program. Once again, I want to express our very sincere thanks to Lucia and Annalisa for finding time out of your very busy schedules to be with us. We are indeed very grateful, and we shall again reach to you again and again. I hope you will continue to find time to collaborate with us up to a point where Margaret Lawrence University will also be part of the beneficiaries or partners on our first EU research grant. Thank you once again, everybody. Everybody online in Nigeria, in diaspora, in Margaret Lawrence University, Abuja campus, and Galilee. Looking forward to see you once again. Thank you and goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Please, I want to make sure all the emails are captured. Can you move it the way you have saved it?
Our students are prepared to entertain